The abuse of children with disabilities. Disabilities, what are they? They are physical, mentally, intellectual impairments, a limited person's ability. Common ones are ADHD, attention disorder. I have that. Blindness, low vision, death, hard of hearing, brain injury, which is a very common one these days. Genesis 9:6, whoever sheds human blood, dead for the image of God, made mankind. After the flood, God reaffirms that human life is sacred because humanity bears God's image. But I don't want this for people to think that less of these people, because they are different. Humanity bears God's image. And in every person, disabled or not, there is an image of God in each and every one of them. Rare genetic disorders. These are medical conditions caused by mutations or abnormalities in a person's DNA that occurs pretty frequently in the general population. An example is what my sister has. I don't know how to pronounce it perfectly. How do you pronounce that, Mama? That. Yeah. Well, what that is a rare inherited condition characterized by developmental delay, intellectual disability, and decreased visual acuity. Genesis 1:27. So God created mankind in his own image. The image of God he created them. Male and female he created. This foundational verse establishes the inherent dignity and sacredness of human life because all people are made in the image of God. World Children's Day 2022, Humanity Inclusion, a program out of Maryland. HI called attention to the high number of children still excluded from school because of a disability. The right to go to school in many situations, children with disabilities have no access to education. Children who use wheelchairs, for example, can't get to school without a ramp, without access to the classroom without a ramp. For children with physical disabilities, it is almost impossible to whole day at school without an adapted toilet because they need extra help. Transforming teaching and learning. Transforming education means adapting teaching methods. Sometimes simple adaptations can make a huge difference. Their advice to teachers are to seat children with hearing loss in front of the class to speak clearly, facing the students, allow them to follow what is being said, understand the lesson. Staggering statistics show that 50% of children with disabilities in low and middle income countries and are still out of school. The gender gap is enormous, by only 42% of girls with disabilities completing their primary school education compared to 51% of boys with disabilities. Children with visual, hearing, physical, or intellectual disabilities are 2.5 times more likely not to attend school at all. Barriers to education for children with disabilities. Societies often have attitudes toward children with disabilities because traditional beliefs and practices in many parts of the world, people often blame the children or their parents for the disability or believe that it is the result of a disease or any kind of punishment or possible curse. That's where you're from. On this natural center of child abuse and neglect, research found that children with disabilities are mistreated at 1.7 times the rate of other children. All research and studies indicate the underreporting is a major concern. Even if a case is reported to the state central registry, most states' child protective service reporting agencies do not gather information on children with disabilities as part of the data collection process. Reviews children. Researchers suggest that children with disabilities may have an increased vulnerability to abuse because of society's response to the disability. Rather than the disability itself, children with disabilities may be perceived as less valuable than other children. Their reports may not be considered trustworthy. Factors leading to abuse among children with disabilities are the same as those found in the general population. Single parents, teen parents, and various levels of stress. Families with children with disabilities can experience additional stressors, including one feeling unprepared to handle the care of a child with disabilities, including acceptance of that child as being different. Two, have financial or time limit stretches from medical, educational activities are suggested. And three, lacking necessary social supports or networks to work through that many concerns and situations that arise providing care for this child and the rest of the family. All these can result in increased vulnerability to abuse. Physical abuse. A child with difficult to handle behavior patterns or communicate difficulties become target of physical abuse. Children who are unable to communicate their needs and experience greater instances of neglect. Sexual abuse. The disabled child can also develop more extensive relationships with trust with greater numbers of people, being able to distinguish when boundaries are being crossed, resulting in potential sexual abuse. Perpetrators, persons who abuse child range from family members to professionals, agree to which a child will be viewed as a credible or reliable in court, is often based on whether the physical, intellectual, or communications abilities are perceived to match the expectations of the court. So in most cases, people who are abused with disabilities never get properly taken care of, or they never get true justice in those cases. Now, I went through, did a lot of research on why through the Bible, why about this, like Leviticus 19:14. Do not curse the deaf, or put a stumbling block in front of the blind, but fear your God. I am the Lord. God explicitly commands his people to respect and care for individuals with disabilities, reflecting his justice and compassion. Proverbs 31:8-9. Speak up for those who cannot speak up for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up for judging fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. This verse underscores responsibility to advocate for their assist and those who may be marginalized or overlooked, including individuals with disabilities. John 9:1-3. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. This is from Jesus himself. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned this man for or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus. But this happened so that the work of God may be displayed upon him. Jesus challenged the notion that disabilities, as a result of sin or punishment, emphasizes God's purpose and glory through every individual. Keep going. Matthew 15:30-31. Great crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others that laid them at his feet, and he healed them. Jesus' healing ministry demonstrated God's compassion and priority for those with physical disabilities. Luke 14:13-14. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be paid at the resurrection of the righteous. This teaches believers to include and honor those with disabilities, prioritizing them in acts of love and hospitality, our response as believers. 1 Corinthians 12:22-23. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat them with special honor. This verse affirms the value of dignity of every person, regardless of their physical or mental abilities. It reminds the church to treat all members with care and respect. Micah 6:8. He has shown you, O mortal, what is God and what does the Lord require of you: to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Helping those with disabilities is part of walking in justice and mercy, reflecting God's character. By following David's example and Jesus' teachings, we can demonstrate God's love in practical ways to those with disabilities, ensuring they experience dignity, honor, and care in His name. I try and offer the solution. There's a program here in South Carolina called ABLE. South Carolina, their vision is South Carolina as a national model of equity and inclusion for all people with disabilities. Their values are equality. I cannot say it. Let me skip that. True inclusion, consumer-driven independence, disability justice, disability pride, and representation. Able South Carolina centers on the belief that all plans and activities impacting people with disabilities should include those impacted. On their site, they say nothing about us without us is a core philosophy. They remain a disability led organization for all people with disabilities. They're only paired with only 5 schools in South Carolina, and each of them have had positive results, given testimony towards how able South Carolina has impacted their schools, and disabled had a renewed confidence in themselves. My solution is a more schools with groups like these. Our own school did one have it once, which was my mother's foundation, except now it's too expensive to have it here. My hope is for more schools to pair with the more organizations like Able South Carolina and my mother's foundation, say LeGray Foundation. If you don't want to be spend time or money to helping these kids, at least take 2 weeks out of your summer. Come help this year at say LeGray Summer Camp. Last year will be held here. This shall be, and this is it for me. This is very personal because of my family's history. I don't only have disabilities, so it's my little sister. She can't come here yet because there's no place for her here yet, and I hope that can one day change because of this, and I hope that is the way y'all can feel one day too. And thank you for hearing me. Thank you.
Hey, good job, bro. I guess I want to open it up to y'all first if y'all have any questions.
I had that down. I took it off to say because I thought this would take longer, but a lot more injuries happen as kids because some are not in less developed areas because they are less cared for, so they're more prone to injuries, and those injuries lead to further disabilities. Because I there's a couple of disability kids here that I have the same thing as they do, but I don't act like they do because my mother put me helped me as through a child, so I'm a lot different now. I can speak clearly. I can do all these things that some of them are have still have trouble with because my mother worked very hard to make sure I wasn't like that when I was got to this age. What do you mean by that? Yeah, Sebastian. He wasn't good around her. Lost balance between me and him, and he stayed there longer. Me and him probably. Because remember that time I almost got Eli shot. We went by the down door houses, and the firefighter came out with a shotgun. After that, I was about ready to fight him.
Well, I think on that note, like I think the most valuable part of your presentation, for me, anyways, is like between the response and the actual disability itself. And there seems to be a lot of cases, and maybe you want to comment a little bit. Not really a question. I'm just pointing out that life is already made more complicated because of whatever disability this child has, but it response to their disability makes that problem even worse. And so, yeah, when it comes to schools, then I think we need to think about it. I got a more practical question, but before that, I think one of my favorite parts of your paper was you spent a while talking about like character, and like Mr. Coney said, like you did a lot of. It's very clear from Scripture. Christians should care about people with physical, mental, and any type of disability. Christians should care about these folks because God does, obviously, right? And it's one of my favorite stories in the Bible that you brought up in your paper about Mephibosheth. Want to share with the class a little bit about who Mephibosheth? It's a tough. It's one of the biblical names, kind of tough to say.
Yeah, what's that?
Mephibosheth. But we'll just call him M. Sorry, that's kind of a curveball.
Yeah, I gotta find
I'll get it started while you're looking. So Mephibosheth was a distant relative to the royal family of Saul. Saul, Jonathan, his son. If you know anything about Jonathan, who was Jonathan's best friend? David, right? As in like King David, as in the David, right? And one of the ways in which David wanted to honor his best friend Jonathan was by taking care of Jonathan's family. Because now David's the king, right? Like Saul's family is out. Like whatever legacy Saul hoped to have for his family, because Saul ended up just becoming a terrible ruler. His family's out, David's family's in. But in order to honor Jonathan, David wanted to honor Jonathan's family. Right? Jonathan died in war and all that. So David went looking and found this guy
it. Yeah, I found what I had. The story of
Got it. We know what you're talking
do this to Mephibosheth.
There you go.
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah. 2 Samuel 9, Mephibosheth was the son of Jonathan and the grandson of King Saul. And after his father and grandfather died, he was left crippled as a child. 2 Samuel 4, despite his physical disability and his low social standing as a member of Saul's house, King David showed extraordinary kindness to him. That reflects David's heart to act on God's kindness, not based on Mephibosheth's say his name's ability or achievements, but because of conventional love and grace. David tells Mr. M, whatever, Mr. Not fear, for I will show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan, and I will retake you all the land your father, and you shall eat at my table always. Mr. M, he refers to himself as a dead dog. Verse 8 is lifted from a place of shame and obscurity to one of honor and provision. David's care for Mr. M mirrors God's mercy and grace for all of us. Regardless of our abilities, it also teaches us to extend love and support to those in need. Jesus' ministry to those with disabilities. Oh, that's that. Sorry, I kept reading. That's all I had.
So here you have just a textbook example. Guy who, yeah, he already had a pretty low view of himself. Himself as a
Dead dog.
dead dog. Because in that society, that's basically what he was considered. He can't contribute physically to anything, so what's the point, right? And so King David swept in, and out of honor and respect for his father, he took him in, and Mephibosheth ended up eating from the king's table the rest of his life. That's one of those things that is inherent to this problem, is that the solutions that are required to help people that are disabled solutions require material stuff. It takes money, it takes time, it takes effort. So it takes people that are willing to contribute. Why it's a really, really significant issue. Okay, so a question that I had was, you mentioned Able, South Carolina,
Yeah.
organizations like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can speak a little bit to specifically that organization or to the Sailor Gray Foundation. What is involved whenever these organizations partner with schools? What does that partnership look like? What do they provide or help out?
They offer counsel, personal experience. I don't know about financial. I don't know if they offer financial part. I think they are led by people with disabilities, so they know what they need. That's why I chose them more specifically than all the others. Because unlike other organizations, though, that's why I spent my mother. She has two children with one with intellectual, one with rare genetic diseases, disabilities, country. That's why I think she was the best person to run what we have going on. I couldn't. Yeah, the school doesn't allow me to open Taylor Gray Foundation, or else I would have offered that. But I was only able to South Carolina, and I thought they have a great mission as well, and they are led by people with disabilities. I think people what schools need are people from that background and from that point of experience, not people who are just they're doing it for a good cause. They don't know where that comes from. That's why I chose them. I think the main thing they do when they go to school, they see what problem, they talk to the students, they see what's wrong, and they try and change that.
Class, do you have anything for Will? I got more questions, but what do y'all think? Cool.
I think that was actually a really good presentation. Really liked it. I also think so. My question is, what's something like South Carolina? What's something that we can do? So my little brother has autism. He got recently diagnosed, older, and he actually withdrew him from the school because bullying and he's really sweet, but there were teachers that weren't helping him. Now my younger brother as well, we think he has a form of dyslexia, and then the teachers never for the research for dyslexia. So, but what would you say that what's the change that we can see?
You mean the affect him bullying or affect him in class?
Oh,
Teachers can say what they want, but people got to change and realize these people are tougher than others. Because unlike, because I have the same thing as your older brother does. That I don't get bullied much, but
he's in sixth grade, so.
yes. Because does Eli have anything? Okay, because my brother, I can tell he talks way too much, and I think also you need to find good people. It's good people you need to find, and like when I talk about Able South Carolina, they look at teaching techniques and they see how they can change that in the classroom. They can see what positively affects. Like it's like I have to sit at the front of the classroom. My mother paid extra so I could have it smaller classes so I could focus more. That's also why it's also a financial burden to have this because you have to pay more to have a better future. But I feel like with Able, you don't have to suffer through all the financial burdens. They fix the problem before you have to pay for it.
People help offer like we were getting my brother diagnosed with autism. It was incredibly expensive.
And I have not explored all of it. What they do, I know what they do in schools, but I know they do a lot of rallies about it. And looking at their site right now, but
it's very interesting. I actually think it's
Anybody else got any questions or comments for?
I think I asked like, what should our
I feel that people. You mean like seeing them mistreated, or just seeing them as they are? Seeing them.
mistreated?
I think more people need to stand up for them because they can't themselves, which is one thing I don't think enough people do these days. That's a positive effect as people, and especially as Christians, we should when we see these people mistreated, I think it's our obligation to actually do something about it. That's why I think as so your answer is as Christians we need to at least report it. I'm not saying we need to get in their life and become a role. I think it'd be good if we had more models like my mother is. But like all it takes is one person to affect change in their life to show that they're being mistreated and all. So we just need to step up and change the way we look at things, really, as Christians.
Anything else?